Hello, everybody. A very warm welcome on behalf of the German Dance Association. My name is Michael Freund. I'm the managing director of that network. Welcome to the public opening of the workshop Tanz Digital, Process Dynamics Discourse, held in the frame of Tanz Digital qualifying program and workshop attempts. Tanz Digital is a funding program initiated in the year of 2020 in the frame of the Corona crisis by German Dance Association. Many thanks to the team of IDEA Germany, one of our partners in the program and great organizer of this event today and within the next 2 days. An exchange of experiences on the artistic application of digital technologies, contributions on topics such as augmented reality, robotics, motion capture, machine learning, score creation, virtual narration, and many issues more in the digital world. German Dance Association aims to be an advocacy partner for the dance on federal level in Germany. Within our network, we bring together freelance artists and companies, as well as companies and artists working at the state and municipal theaters. Furthermore, we network the art sector with education, dance science, dance scholars, as well as the dance archives. And within the Tanz Digital, we invite the whole sector with all these different professionalities to collaborate and to explore the advantages and, of course, the obstacles too, to bring dance in the digital world. Within the last 2 years, we funded nearly 60 projects. But Tanz Digital is not only about creation. It's about learning, networking, exchange, and sharing. Thus, I do thank again the team of the ITA for organizing and hosting this workshop, especially Christine Henniger and Maxime Wittenbecher. And of course, I do thank the Tanz Digital team conducted by Julia Decker. Now, I do look forward to the keynote by Choy Ka Fai, and I wish us all 2 inspiring days. And I have the pleasure to hand over to Christine for some information. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for being with us in translation, but still with us in the room here. Welcome to the workshop Tanz Digital, Process Dynamics Discourse, also from my part, especially to those sitting at their computers at home, looking at the stream. We are having our first day and the public opening together with you. My name is Christine Henniger. I'm the head of the Media Library for Dance and Theatre at the International Theatre Institute here in Berlin-Kreuzberg. And I am looking forward to some very exciting days, 3 days exactly, which we will hopefully have with all the participants sitting with me here in the room and all the workshop leads leading us through these workshop days. But first of all, I would like to start to hand over and to welcome Choy Ka Fai, who will introduce himself, and to his keynote, Telepresence in the world of the extreme self. I'm sorry, I'm confused. Your title, you have to do it again. I'm sorry, but I'm handing over. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here and really happy that I could share my work with you online. And also, I don't know if there's audience in the space. And yeah, and so my lecture today, could we bring on the slides? The first slide of my lecture, please. Yeah, okay, good. So my name is Choy Ka Fai, and I'm an artist who has been working and living in Berlin for the past 8 years, and almost always working with dance and technology. But in a way, I think I'm not an expert in technology, so I use them quite minimally, depending on the project and the motivation and the things that I'm interested in my creation. So my keynote today is titled Telepresence in the Age of the extreme self. And I will share with you one of my experiments in creating a remote telepresence studio for my performance, Post-Colonial Spirit, which premiered in 2021 at Tanz in August. And also a little bit on my current research in the notion of the extreme self, which in my own understanding is redefining us today within the accelerated human culture. As an artist, I'm interested in the human condition. And for me, dance is one of the most fascinating ways to study human culture from an anthropological perspective. And what I mean by telepresence, telepresence refers to a set of technologies which allow a person to feel as if they were present, to give the appearance or effect of being present at one place other than their true location. This concept was first recorded proposed in a science fiction novel in 1942. And for me, the first artistic project that engages in telepresence is that of South Korean artist, the father of video art, Paik Nam-jun. He, together with a collective of artists, including choreographer Merce Cunningham and artist Joseph Boy, they make the first international satellite installation called Good Morning, Mr. Orwell on the New Year Day of 1984. The event was broadcast live in New York and the Centre Pompidou in Paris, and also in main TV channel in the USA, Germany, and South Korea. It was reported that it reached an estimated audience of over 25 million viewers worldwide. However, Wikipedia note that citation is needed, so nobody can verify that number of audience from 1984. The extreme self, for me, is really about the near future. And I have been exploring the notion of self in my work, the physical self, the digital self, and the conceptual self. In our capitalist world today, there is a constant overconsumption and overproduction of almost everything. The individual began to depart from the traditional culture of community. The self slowly become isolated. And however, the constant rise of Western individualism would eventually return the self to seek for itself. Thus, we see the rise of New Age spiritual gurus, endless yoga retreats, and new communities set out for common belief, all seeking spirituality away from the traditional realms of religion. The self then began a journey of constant optimization to replace itself with a better version, updating itself with new sensibility, from the physical self to the digital self, and now to that of the extreme self as we move into the metaverse. Next slide, please. So here you can see an image of a folk dancer from Indonesia. And my recent performance, Post-Colonial Spirit, I name it as a telepresent performance, which is inspired by this Indonesian folk dance of Dolalak. The trance dance ritual from the 1930s draws upon a multi-dimensional history of traditional Javanese dance movement, imitation of partying colonial Dutch soldier, dancing to melodic Islamic poems. So Dolalak dance heritage opens up a liminal space in which dance transcends beyond the resistance of coloniality, power, and fantasy. Next, I want to show you a dance film of the ritual I filmed in 2020.
Pra
Next slide, please. Yes, so now you have a sense of what the trance dance ritual of Dolalak looks like. And basically the costume is really inspired by Dutch colonial soldier uniforms. And it led me to research into colonial photography as which is one of the main entry point for the creation of post-colonial spirit as a contemporary artwork. So I was inspired by the colonial photography of Woodbury and Page, who set up a photo studio business in Jakarta, Indonesia in 1860s. The studio created a topographical survey of indigenous culture, and they saw images of Java, temples, and landscape. But their main commission were taking portraits of high-ranking Dutch army officers and member of the Javanese aristocracy. So next. And here you actually see a Javanese king would actually, these are Dutch soldier. The caption is the Dutch soldier drinking and partying in a homemade costume in Java. And I was amazed. I found many other photography like this one that in a way are very queer, where they would cosplay as a pregnant woman or Indonesian ladies. And from my research, there was a lot of costume party, ballrooms event as well. Of course, there is a huge imbalance of Dutch female to the Dutch male population at that time in Indonesia. So I speculate that this fetishized cosplay culture of the high society dignitary would be the very beginning of Dolalak, which is officially documented from 1930, where indigenous people start to dress up as colonial Dutch soldier, drinking and partying as part of a Javanese trance dance ritual. And the sheer amazement of seeing these images inspired me to investigate the historical lineage of Javanese dance and trance as a form of resistance. Next. And if you compare 1930 ethnographic film of Javanese trance dance to that of what I filmed in 2020, nothing much have changed choreographically. Okay,
the witch dances alone, a figure both frightening and representative of spirit self. The witch dances alone, a figure both frightening and representative of spirit self. In slow motion again, you see the look of contorted, seeming agony on the face of this trancer.
So as I was editing this comparison, it seems to me that the primary social function of binding the hearts and mind of people still remain intact in this almost a century of trans Javanese dance. But perhaps this reflects on the socio-economic relationship that many Javanese or Indonesian working class today continue to be marginalized or exploited by the ruling class or multinational company in this post-colonial time. Next.
In slow.
It is simply quite amazing to observe the liminal New Age movements and consider the Indonesian trajectory of trans culture. Here, I found, or someone recommended me to have a look at them. This is a TikTok account of a group called Dewi Arum, which is they are young girls coming from the tradition of Dolalak. They have taken on the social media as their digital platform for expression. As you can see, they have 1.6 million followers. But I just checked also today, it's 1.9 million now. So I think as an artist myself, I will never influence 1.9 million people in my lifetime. But these are just teenage girls who are as young as 12 to 15 or 16 years old, and they are just dancing on TikTok. So maybe I should really consider to start a TikTok account myself and start cosplaying a bit. But next, I will show you their TikTok dance reel. So of course, they are the TikTok story online, but they also perform in real life with live audience and really, really young audience as well. Play the video. Next. So one of the first thing in my process or my creation process was to try to envision a telepresence studio, a real-time motion capture studio which could digitally transmit the folk dance from Indonesia to any part of the world. And next. And what I mean by that is here you can see an image of the Telepresence studio in Indonesia. The dancer is being fitted with a motion capture sensor device, and we digitize his dance via an independent server, which we have to rent every time we perform on Amazon.de, and live stream his movement data onto the stage in Berlin or wherever we are performing. His dance expression is actually digitized into data and number compressed as a stream of data, in a way teleported via the internet, expanded and mapped onto a virtual avatar in Berlin that represents his presence. Next, on the stage in Berlin, we have a Dutch artist, dance artist, Vincent Ribik, to make this sort of impossible dance duet with Adre, the folk dancer from Indonesia. And the concept was to invite a Dutch person to relearn Dolalak, which was originally inspired by the colonial Dutch soldier in Indonesia. And for me, it forms a kind of a conceptual loop to transmit the Dolalak dance back into the Dutch body. In a way, it returns the resonance to the Dutch. Next. The concept of telepresence in my work manifests in three folds or three different layers. Number one, the presence of the folk dancer is transmitted digitally into the virtual realm. Two, a parallel concept where the dancer go into trance, which means the spirits enter or possess the body. If you look at it in this manner, the presence of the spirit could become transnational and literary as a stream of data. And number three, the presence of both the spirits and the dancer forms a kind of supernatural union with the Dutch dancer in this impossible duet. Next. So for over 1 year of the creation process, the two of them could only dance together virtually. That's why I say it's sort of an impossible duet where Vincent has totally no knowledge of any Indonesian dance form. So we also come to terms with that it's about transmitting the presence of the folk dance rather than the actual dance notation itself. And on stage, try dancing 2D just by video live streaming the dancer. Play the video. So as you can see in the video, we transit from a two-dimensional form to a three-dimensional form, which is the avatar. And from there, they also continue to dance different part of the Dolalak repertoire on stage. The next video, please.
Swordfish walking in the sea. Swordfish walking in the sea. Got hit by a wave, his tail is moving. There is a mole on top of a mouse. There is a mole on top of a mouse. Do not stare at it, do not fall in love. When you're biking, don't rotate your bike. When you're biking, don't rotate your bike. If you rotate it, your bike will be broke. Don't get shaky when climbing the stairs. Don't get shaky when climbing the stairs. If you are shaky, don't know what to do.
Yeah, so in the actual choreography, they actually do a high five. So what you saw in the video was like a virtual high five with the two dancers. So of course, when you sort of transit into the virtual realm, there would be endless possibility. And I think for me, the creation process or the narrative always drive the expression of how I use technology. And sometimes I think you need to forget what is real, what is virtual, and what is hyper real. What is life and what is not life? Is it necessary or what is important as artistic expression? So I want to show you the climax scene of the whole performance whereby you start to not know what is life and who is dancing, and things just sort of multiplies and manifests into different things. Yeah, the next video, please. Yeah, after making the post-colonial spirit and premiere in Berlin at Tanz, I thought to myself, maybe this is one of the most beautiful failure that I ever made as a performer, because I think a lot of things that I try to work with or to create with technology, sometimes it's just not possible, and you always felt that the presence or the human presence is so important. And I'm going to show you a video of sort of like the behind the scene, specifically on the creation or how they work in the Telepresence studio in Indonesia. And it's sort of from the perspective of my Indonesian collaborators. And it's made in their own language, Bahasa Indonesia, which I feel is so important for their voices to be heard. Next video, please.
Memang dulu Ka Fai pada tahun 2019 itu pernah datang ke grup Dolalak Budi Santoso, itu grup yang saya ikuti di desa. Nah itu dia datang untuk menyaksikan pertunjukan kami, dan dia mewawancari beberapa penari juga sih. Ka Fai mempunyai proyek yang juga mengangkat Dolalak begitu, dan alhamdulillah dan kebetulan saya yang menjadi penarinya gitu. Awal mulanya seperti itu.
Aku itu kalau maunya musik gitu, kalau maunya mikirnya tentang musik, apalagi pertunjukan ini tentang Dolalak gitu, aku menolak kalau playback. Ada musisi live di sana, karena kalau nggak ada musisi live, ini nggak akan ngangkat, maksudnya musiknya nggak akan ngangkat, nggak akan jadi satu dengan pertunjukannya di pelaku, tapi tetap harus ada yang live, dan aku posisinya ini juga live sebenarnya, tapi hanya untuk Andri, karena bagaimanapun dia penari dolala kan, harus ada sesuatu yang bersama-sama main itu loh.
Karena tadi aku bilang ini di tengah pandemi, di mana tatap muka itu sulit sekali. Jadi koordinasi untuk tatap muka itu yang paling sulit. Dan sejak awal memang produksi ini dilakukan secara online ya, bukan live streaming tapi online dengan platform Zoom.
Realita bahwa kita tidak bisa memungkiri fakta kita semua saat ini terhubung di saat yang bersamaan gitu, dengan konteks waktu yang berbeda dan tempat yang berbeda. Ka Fai juga sudah bermain lama dengan motion capture, sama saya udah 5 tahun yang lalu. Terus dia sudah bekerja dengan berbagai eksperimental yang juga melibatkan teknologi, brainwave sensor, dan setelah dicari-cari kemudian ternyata eksekusi menggunakan animasi avatar hanya itu yang bisa mempertemukan atau merepresentasikan visualisasi dari spirit.
Ya jujur ini juga saya belum terbayang dari awal proyek bahwa saya akan mengenakan motion alat seperti ini. Saya nyebutnya ini robot ya, karena tubuh saya ditempel beberapa alat kabel-kabel gitu. Ini merupakan ya itu pertama kali juga memakai alat seperti ini, dan sedikit gumun ya. Wah kok keren teman gitu, kok canggih gitu. Cuma ditempelin saya gerak, kok di komputer ikut gerak gitu, animasinya itu juga amazing banget sih pertamanya.
Dolala dikasih tekno kan mereka jadi paham. Paling enggak, ini musiknya orang sana. Ada informasi yang bisa disampaikan. Karena koplo remix itu punya punya sesuatu yang universal, yang artinya beatnya itu kan sebenarnya universal.
We will fade out your image and the screen will go out. So you dance in the space, until the first stop of the music. We try this now one more time. From the beginning.
Ini pertunjukan khususnya tari biasanya lekat dengan tatap muka, live gitu langsung. Kita terikat emosi yang cukup kuat dengan penonton. Tapi kemudian kita di situasi pandemi ini kita difasilitasi dengan teknologi. Kita harus mengakrabkan diri dengan teknologi gitu. Kita harus hadapi supaya bisa survive untuk kedepannya bisa tetap jalan gitu, seni pertunjukan, seni tari yang sekarang produksi sedang berjalan. Karena komunikasi dengan baik itu tadi dari tim kerjanya Mas Sananta, jadi semua teratasi dengan baik. Buktinya kemarin 3 kali pentas, well done gitu, big applause, full house juga.
Action. I cannot believe it. You're late.
So next. So after 2 years of making this Telepresence performance, I think the whole artistic creative team are almost like tragic lovers in a long-distance relationship, and we never met in real life. And the two group of artists finally met in Indonesia 1 year after the premiere in September 2020. And we have the chance to make a new version of post-colonial spirit without the Telepresence on the stage at one of the world's largest Buddhist monument in Borobudur. And I'd like to show you a short reel of that performance now.
1, 2, 3. Tuket, tuket, tangi maneh, aru kondori kendo, manu opo, manu puter menclok ning dhuwur pager, ojo menclok ning dhuwur pager, menclok ning dhuwur geger. Jauh kereta. Joget balik, aru kondori kendo, manu opo, manu jalak menclok ning witing salak, ojo menclok ning witing salak, menclok sing natin dolala. Daog lena.
So for the first time in my life, I felt like a rock star. I never seen so much audience in my performance before. And I invited the TikTok Dolala group, David Arum, to perform with us. And it was so surreal to dance with them, and all the audience danced with us. Everyone would gyrate to the Indonesian pop tunes of Dangdut, which is part of the David Arum's repertoire. From the intellects to the grandfather, the festival crew, and to the bus driver, basically everyone would dance with us. I think for me, this special performance or gathering to celebrate the heritage of Dolalak may still serve the same basic function of a ritual in binding the hearts and mind of people. I was very happy that we are able to perform with or without technology, with or without telepresence. Next slide. So I come to the end of my keynote, but I would really just going to share a little bit more about what I'm currently working on. For me, looking at this Dewi Arum, the Dolalat girls, it made me rethink about the notions of extreme self in this age of accelerated digital culture and lifestyle. It seems to me that there is a re-emergence of ritual, a reappearance of ritual that is possible also online. The compulsion to consume emotion between the erratic stream of data online becomes so fluid to us, almost as second nature now. With a swipe or a twitch of the finger, multiple floating screens will appear in front of you. The influencer, like the Dewi Arum girls, today becomes the digital gods that channels, follows, likes, and views. And the numbers are translated to capital in real life. In return, the influencer would provide a dance, laughter, smile, or wink, or some skin. And then she entertains non-stop from a few seconds to hundreds of hours. The mundane life of the ordinary becomes an eternal, moving selfie to be shared intimately online to anyone and anywhere. For me today, the influencer function as a traditional pastor or shaman that serve congregation of thousands, and most of the time without a need for spiritual calling, morals, or medicine. The medicine is just pop culture and junk food media. The philosopher Bu Chul Han writes about time online lacking a solid structure which doesn't provide any whole for any community to be housed. I would suggest that he is speaking from the perspective from outside the metaverse. For those inside, this erratic stream and point-like presence provide a virtual structure to rehouse a community who donates or invests time and provide a free flow of capital. I question then, is this sort of virtual community, virtual existence, would that be the ultimate reflex of our human solitude, the reality of our digital self becoming the extreme self that blurs into a crescendos of emojis? Thank you.
Thank you, Choy Ka Fai, for presenting, really coming from a colonial structure to a post-colonial interpretation into how you produced your production, post-colonial spirits, and actually a very surrounding around this production. I think there are a lot of questions coming up now, but it might also be that the audience has to grab together ideas and grab together thoughts that came up now. So I will start with a question to you, and I actually wanted to start maybe exactly where you stopped your presentation, because I would like to know more about this idea of the trance dance and the trance dance ritual being some kind of movement of resistance. How does this come together? Maybe we can start there, and also how this Dolala culture really developed also as this culture of resistance in Indonesia or Java at that time.
Yeah, I think this idea of a resistance is also what I learned over the process of creating this work from my Indonesian collaborators. Because I think for almost centuries, maybe far beyond that, that this trance ritual or dance is always a gathering of people, of the villagers. And for them, whatever they express within this ritual or this gathering, it's always sometimes it's not so serious because every time when we hear of a foreign language of an alien tune or sound, you thought that it's like serious prayers, but a lot of them are like political banters. So they would actually talk about though they make jokes of what the kings at that time were doing. And even until today, like for example in Yogyakarta, they are actually trying to clear some land and take away land from villagers to build a new airport. And for them, this sort of everyday life conversation, in a way talking about, how the government actually take away their land, so comes into their sort of everyday life, and then they also talk about it, or when they think about it in their ritual. So in today context, in the contemporary context, in different Javanese trance ritual and dance, there's always also a singer and also an MC. So there is different repertoire and groups of things where they go into trance, but also they are quite improvised. So when they sing, they also sing about the current affairs as well. So for me, I think that is how the power or the critical voice is always with the people expressing through this trance ritual, or I actually see it more and more as a gathering of people and then sharing or expressing their thoughts and view as a form of resistance, because then it has this effect later on to pass on to generation and generation as well.
Am I on? Yeah. Relating to that, when we saw Vincent and Andre on the stage, so it's a gender-related question in that case. You decided for Andre because he's coming from a very classical interpretation of Dolalak, as far as I understood. And then we have Devi Arum, these young girls with much of fame, with those 1.9 million followers, which is really wow. How maybe you can relate to that a bit. Was it a mostly male dance in the 30s, or did it already develop to be that also females were allowed to dance or were part of the dance, of the trance dance ritual, or did it only happen in today's time?
It happens, I'm not sure what's the exact moment, but originally when they started, it's only the male dancer. Also in the Muslim context, the woman are not supposed to reveal skin, but then that's why I sort of, when I film, I chose a Budi Santoso group, which actually they still transmit the original notation from the 1930s. I mean, in their documentation, but in today, that is quite mixed, but there's only one, like the group that I searched, or two other that still have male dancers, and the rest have literally just becomes all female dancer. And the interesting story that they told me was, they wear shorts, and then because Indonesia is also a Muslim country in a way, and the Muslim fundamentalists would actually make some noise, and over years, like 50 years, the length of their shot will grow, lengthen and shorten, depends. So like Devi Arum would be the shortest one that you see till today. So in a way, what Devi Arum and both actually Adre groups, Budi Santoso and Devi Arum, they now actually perform in shopping malls. I mean, they still perform in their village traditionally for the harvest of the rice and stuff like that. But now a lot of them is almost like a political thing, in a way that the provincial government would say, let's present you here or to another state or province, and they would just do in wedding, funerals, and also actually a lot in shopping mall as well. So that's also then the reality of Dolalak today is dominated by groups like David Arum, which is closer and closer to the pop culture because they actually also completely change the songs to really Indonesian electronic music, danduk, in that sense. Yeah.
Reminded of the thought maybe it's some postmodern development, or I don't know, to be present, especially in a female context on Instagram as a dancer, because dancing is so much related to the female body in Western contexts, and maybe this somehow also floated over to the Eastern context of Java Indonesia in a way.
Yeah.
Not sure about that, but yeah, would be interesting to know. But maybe going up, I'm looking to the round. Otherwise, I'm continuing because I have another question related to. I have so many questions, but I will stop someone. A question to your choice of technical options. Well, you said you explained you wanted to work in a technical way with that from the beginning on, though COVID somehow interrelated also with your decisions, how you had to rehearse during Zoom and how Vincent and Andre weren't able to meet anyway until late last year, as far as I understood. But maybe you can explain, why did you decide to work with motion capture, with virtual reality in that case? How did it come to that point that you thought it makes sense for this post-colonial spirits to go into the digital reality?
Yeah, I think the motion capture was one of the things that I was working with a lot since I was a factory artist at Tanz House in Düsseldorf. I think I started playing with motion capture back in 2017, 16, 17 for over the years. And also then I have experience working with that. And actually, Post-Colonial Spirit is actually a series of work under the umbrella project called Cosmic Wonder, which I research on shamanic dance culture around Asia. So in some of the other, the starting point of the project was really this very naive question, like, what if I could motion capture the dance of the shaman? Does it mean I could capture the essence of God or the spirit or deity who is possessing the body? And then what does the data of God look like, or movement data of God? So that was the starting point for everything. So in a way, the motion capture and creating the avatar, in a way, it's similar where you see different, for example, Indian temple and Indian god. There's so many manifestation or visual representation of how the god looks like, and avatar comes from the Hindu religious context in that sense. So the whole project was thinking about how do I sort of extrapolate or to sort of show the presence, because the other question is, like, if God can dance, then it doesn't dance like human, right? So we have to step into the other realm, that how does a god dance in a way, and what are the energy that's flowing and stuff like that. So I think that's the premise of the project. And then when I filmed Dolalak Indonesia was end of February 2020. So that's where the pandemic starts. And then I only have that one trip, but I couldn't go back. And then I was already thinking for a year that we start rehearsing online. And I thought we could try, and I thought it was difficult to try that. Is it possible that this dancer is not in the same place, but we are actually doing the motion capture live data of the motion data streaming, which actually I was forced to do in the other piece where the dancer was stuck in Bangkok. He couldn't come to Singapore, to the Singapore Museum to perform. So I got a team to transmit his dance to Singapore, and then it was just avatar dancing. So that was like the baby step to make that reality. So when it comes to post-colonial spirit, I know that it's impossible not to have a human presence on stage, because that's what I try in the other work. So that's why I thought let's try this. Although on hindsight, after making the work, it's not worth the stress to do it because it's just like with technology, with motion capture. Like I remember we bring the show back to the Netherlands in Utrecht at Spring Festival. The studio in Indonesia get a blackout 10 minutes before house open, and we was like, okay, it's okay because I chose the studio with a backup generator, so we boot it up and then we restart all the machine, and we delay the house open for 10 minutes. But also, I thought in a way, it seems that in terms of thinking about production and things about budget, it is sustainable, but it's actually not because we have to have double the amount of people. So I have the sound engineer in Berlin and also in Indonesia. So we have to do the studio. So everything is times two in that sense, even though they don't fly and they don't come to Germany. But of course, I think the funders start to question like, why all this money going into Indonesia in that sense, because we need the support there. So I think in a way it was that's why I always thought that the premiere or the piece itself is one of my most beautiful failure. But in that failure, I learned so much about, you imagine or you envision it, you can dance with an avatar and the presence is there, and then we have to negotiate so much technicality. Like even I still couldn't get my head around, my sound engineer did, like how could I talk in stage in Berlin and they could talk there, and then how do we cut out the feedback? I don't know how we do it until today, but my engineer know. So there's so much small detail that when what you see on stage, like when we perform in How, nobody really cares, no, what is the technicality behind in that sense. But what they care is what is presented on stage. But of course, it helped also that the narrative is so dense. So in a way that all the technology in this performance start to fade away or to go underneath, which I like in a way, because then what is most essential is actually the presence or the dance that was transmitted onto the stage in Berlin. Yeah.
From the audience, I would hand over the microphone if you can see me.
Yeah.
That's. Hi, Choy Ka Fai. My name is Masha. I guess we met already in Düsseldorf because I was part of Moving Digits projects and you worked with us back there. I have a technical question actually about the motion capture. Which system you used? Was it a perception neuron or something else? And the second thing that I noticed is also about technology. I saw a dancer was wearing those gloves, but when I saw the result on the projection, the hands were not moving much. I don't know if you guys noticed, but they were like frozen. And I found that very pity because in Indonesian dance, the hands are really crucial. Like this movement of hands, it really has a big importance. Yeah, big expression, exactly. So I wanted to ask what happened there actually. Why was it the limitation of the technology, or was it some bug or something? Because the hands of the avatar, they were not moving much on the projection. Yeah.
I think it was honestly, it was a question of the stress level, because what I used was the very first generation of perception neurons. We have like a 10 fingers tracking, and then that means they have I think they have like almost 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 10 more sensors that add to the system. So always it has error, and some of the finger is not aligned properly. And I mean, of course, that they are all affected by electromagnetic wave. So the process was really, or the recording, or the process, we always work with the 10 fingers. And maybe in some part, or I think in the performance, I decided to cut the 10 fingers. Because in the live context of the performance, I think what is more important is to not have I was worried that there was overloading the system or the data of 10 more sensors of the fingers would actually create the whole avatar to slow down as well, which happens before. So that's why I think at the performance or the video I show, we took away the 10 fingers. Instead, it was just the 2 or 3, no, there's a 3 axis in that sense. Yeah. So But also, I think with perception neurons, I'm using the new system now. They also left with 3 fingers. So it's a pity as well that they stopped the 10 fingers, which you are right that in a lot of Asian dance form, the fingers or the gesture is so important. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Elisa. I
Hello.
wanted to ask you about your approach to the virtual camera. So we have seen that you have combined several, how to say, frame sizes, and
Yeah.
you have filmed from different points of view. So what is approach to this virtual camera? And another kind of question, why don't you use the virtual environment in digital world? Why you work only with the avatar? What is the idea behind it? Thank you.
Yeah. I think if you see the question about the avatar, so the performance, most of my performance until now is made with Unity, and of course we have the possibility to work with a virtual environment, but I think in the process of working, we always generate different environment, different things. But somehow, through that process, I always felt that the body or the dance itself becomes more important. So slowly, I strip away all the other things, and also because in my context, I normally produce or I create the stage work. And you can see also in the stage, it already has its own set design. So sometimes I always do this blanking out of things to bring your focus to what is, I think, the most essential for me. And also, I think in my process, I always cut down. So my process always is the maximalist from the beginning, that I try everything that my idea or my collaborator have idea with. And through the process of rehearsing or creation towards the performance premiere, I always take away stuff. Because for me, I always believe that the technology is too overwhelming if it's constantly used in your face. So that's why I always strip it down. And the question of the virtual camera is very interesting as well, because as you can see also in the stage work, normally you are also looking at one perspective. So I also use quite minimal movement of the virtual camera. And normally I fix the camera point, because in the other piece, not in this one, in the piece called Tragic Spirit, which is about the Siberian shaman, I have a scene whereby I automated the camera into a spiral movement, and then it felt like the whole earth move as well on stage. So sometimes it also it depends. So in that, I use it in that show because I thought that sort of works for that context, that it brings you into maybe a different dimension. But of course, what I presented today with the post-colonial spirit in itself is so dense with, even the costume is also quite intricate in that sense. So I chose not to use the virtual camera. But of course, if you are working in, for example, making a work for VR, that's also a very interesting thing to play with, of course, the virtual camera and bringing the perspective of the audience. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Choy Ka Fai. Thank you also for being with us in the Q&A after your presentation. I think, from my point of view, this was a good starting point, and it will lead in our next discussions with the workshop leads here. We will now have a short break for those with us being on streaming, because we will have a short reset of the situation here. And thank you also to Michael for being with us and welcoming. And we see you all back in half a minute, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the streaming here from the Media Library for Dance and Theatre in Berlin-Kreuzberg. It is up to us to encode the kind of future we want, how we reveal and rehabilitate the internet as a creative commons, as a more ethical, democratic, trustworthy, collaborative, open space for exchange and creative imagination. This is a quote from Kudus Onikeko, a Nigerian dancer, choreographer and researcher, from his talk Strategies of Counteracting, given in the frame of the symposium Position Dance, Creating Access, Diversity. This workshop here, Process, Dynamics, Discourse in a frame of Tanz Digital, is the second one of its kind, where we have the opportunity to invite experts from the field of dance and technology to give a hands-on insight into their productions and researches. They also will get the time to come together with all participants here in the room today to get into exchange on topics and questions which accompanied their works when creating it. We are looking forward to a 3-day program with not only the workshop leads of the 5 amazing workshops and installations, but also with an amazing group of participants here with us. We received a huge amount of great applications, I have to admit, which we didn't expect on beforehand. It was very hard for us to choose, and we are happy that we chose you who are here in the room. We are, of course, not that happy that we had to tell some of the people who were interested to be here to not have this opportunity. So we hope that we can continue with this. This is a saying into the direction of Dachverband Tanz, who are actually sponsoring and funding this workshop at the moment. We are happy to welcome you here to try out, to test and discuss together with us and with the workshop leads during the next days. The idea of this panel is to receive a first insight of the workshop contributions that are part of Tanz Digital. We would like to ask the workshop contributors that will introduce their work and ideas. What are the technical considerations that have accompanied your work? And how is your work maybe related also to the work of the others here at the panel? Maybe these questions might guide your answers. Let's see. I'm now here with the performance group Artis Mobilis, Nina Stemberger and Bit Schmidhusen, here on my right side. They researched the use of new media in a performative context. With their international network of artists and creative coders, they produce cross-genre experiences, social experiments, and performative installations. I'm also here, right next to them, with Post-Organic Bauplan, Josefina Maro and Salvador Marino. They work from a post-humanist perspective based on the development of robotic devices to transgress the practices that condition our bodily perception. The duo wants to disembody the idea of the body as a natural, given and unmodifiable being. On my left side, to my left, there is Schönmann. Hello. Yasmin is a dancer, choreographer, and digital artist from Germany. She's part of the multiple virtual dance environment and installation PAR, directed and choreographed by Carly Leif, and she dances there together with Sean Nederlof. To my right side again, there's Oliver Proske, a stage designer, industrial and exhibition designer, and he's presenting together with Lilith Borchert, a dancer and movement teacher. Ah, there she is. The project AR Loop Machine, whom he will be telling us more about later. And on my left side, to not confuse everyone on Zoom or YouTube, is David Rittershaus. He's representing together with Anton Koch and Jorge Guevara the Motion Bank. Motion Bank has been uniquely combining dance studies, software development and design under one roof at Mainz University of Applied Sciences since 2016. In 2009, it was founded by the choreographer William Forsyth as a research platform for digital dance notation. So thank you for of you being here together with us, also with the participants. We are having a short introduction, and I would like to start with some questions to give you the opportunity to present your work and to present your workshop that we will be giving here. And I would like to start with Birk and Nina, sitting right next to me, and actually looking quite interesting already in the beginning. Maybe you will tell us a bit about it onto my question now. In your work, merging entities, sorry, I'm today a bit confused with names and titles. Be nice with me, it was an early morning. In your work, merging entities, your work combining motion capture also with sound. Can you tell us a bit what you're doing here in this workshop and what you will do with the participants during the next days? And I will hand over to you.
Yes, thanks, Christina. So maybe I go a step back. So we are Birk and Nina from the performance group Artis Mobilis. And last year we have been in Dortmund at the Academy for Theater and Digitality. And there we developed the tools we will now exploring with you in the workshop. So last year was the development, and this year we also want to create our new production where we will find out how the role of the composers and the choreographer will be changed because of the technical dependencies. So we developed a machine learning system last year, and as you can see, this motion suit with 6 gyroscope sensors. So I have 2 on my legs, 1 on my hip, 2 on my arms, and 1 on my head. And yeah, as well the machine learning system. And I forgot to tell you about our research question. The research was about the translation from movements to sounds.
Yes, so I can tell you something about the role of the machine learning that we used, or why did we use it. I already had an interesting conversation with David about it, who also asked me what is the machine learning doing there, because this field is so big. So we are not image generating anything. We don't have chat GPT there telling you some stuff. We use a really basic machine learning system called an LSTM that serves basically as a translation machine to translate from movement to sound. Why do we use it? If we wouldn't use it, we could map the gyroscope data to sound synthesis. So we have the XYZ data, and we could linear map it. So for example, we could do something like you raise your left arm and the volume goes up, and you tilt it or you pan it and the pitch goes up and down, stuff like this, which could be interesting probably for a musician who wants to really accurately control the sound, but which is probably not so interesting for a dancer and like movement focused person, where the the gyroscope would really tell you how you have to move. But as a dancer, you probably want to create your own movements because you know your body language. So this is why we used this machine learning system that could learn any movement basically and map it to any sound. So what we did in our research was that me as a sound designer, I was playing back. I was creating a sound progression, and then we worked with dancers and asked them, what kind of movement could you imagine to the sound? What does feel right for you? What fits to the sound? And then we recorded this movement together with the sound progression. And this served as a training data to create our model. So what we bring here is a pre-trained model with like 4 different kind of movements and kind of sound progressions. And yes, it enables you then as participants to explore this association space between movements and sounds and see what we trained there and how it feels to get into to have the possibility to work with this latent space, with this trained model, what kind of sounds can arise from that.
So to answer your question, Christina, in our workshop workshop, we will give you a practical experience how to work with a machine learning system and to translate movements to sounds. And yeah, you can improvise with your body movements, and you will improvise and explore the technical setup and create sounds. And we are looking forward for the workshop tomorrow.
They are also allowed to wear the suits that you're now having on your body probably tomorrow. Yeah. You have seen them on the tour when you went to Studio 2 in the second floor, so looking forward to this, definitely. I'm also coming there. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. We will have time for questions at the end of the introduction round, if this is okay for you. Okay. So I will continue with Yasmin. So coming back to you. Also interesting for me to always switch around. Okay. Thank you for being with us today. Actually, that's the most interesting part, because you don't know yet where you will see the work of Yasmin, but maybe she can tell you already what you will see. Maybe you tell us a bit about PAR and what you've done there.
Hello, hello. Works? Okay, okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Yasmin. I am part of the team that realized the virtual reality dance film called PAR. The choreographer Carly couldn't hear today, so I'm kind of representing a little bit the work. I was a part, especially of the first part of the process as a dancer, and also advising Carly on how to realize a virtual reality dance film. We have to imagine a lot beforehand and really imagine how the technology will work. We filmed everything here in Berlin in the Tier Anatomisches Theater in by the Humboldt University, kind of where the Charité is. It's a very historic site, and it's a very round theater that used to host classes that would learn about anatomy in animals. And we played a lot with duality. That's also where the title comes from, par, like a couple or a pair. I was one of the dancers. The other dancer is Sean Nederlof. So there we were already a couple, and we were playing a little bit with the duality of the past of the space and what is now basically the present, also sort of future of the space, which is really more an exhibition and theater space. And we also wanted to explore the virtual space set in that theater and the physical space. So PAR is a film or an experience that you can enter, and you can see a little bit the merging of virtual and physical reality in virtual reality. We used motion tracking suits. We used a 360 camera to realize everything, and the post-production took actually a long time because of the avatar bodies that needed to be fabricated. The whole model, the virtual model of the space, it actually turned out to be very complicated. So similar to what we already heard here, it was a concept that we started with, and then what actually came out of it was still very different than the concept. So the artwork, in a way, often I think with technology takes a little bit its own like life and steps. So this is definitely something that you can see, I think, in this room here. You can experience it here. We can have a Q&A session tomorrow evening, and I'm here to answer any kind of questions also of like how did the process go. And for me it was really interesting as a dancer also to work with so much technology and see what's even possible with that very physical art form, and then put it into the virtual reality. And thank you so much for the invitation.
So tomorrow we will have the opportunity, as Yasmin told you, in the evening to ask her directly how she as a dancer perceived developing this performance, how she also contributed to the ideas of the development of the movement parts, and how the collaboration of all of your team, I mean also with Carly, but also with Game Lab and also with the other technical partners which were allowed in the project, went on. We will set up differently this room up from tomorrow, and you can all the time come to us and have the classes and just watch the performance here. And then in the evening, the Q&A will follow up. That's it for today with Yasmin, and I will continue. I would like to continue with Josefina and Salvador. Maybe you can tell a bit about what is it, what post-organic Bauplan is doing actually.
Now, yes? Yeah. So, yes, we are a duo called Post-Organic Bauplan, and we are working together since 2017 in the researching the relationship between body and movement with the creation of digital devices, and specifically the creation of robotic prostheses. Yes, and therefore we develop mostly live performance, but also installations.
It's a bit more about what you're doing here in the workshop concept of digital gods.
Okay. Yes, so basically in the workshop we're exploring the same principles of our work, which, as I said, is connecting and exploring the relationship between body, not just the body, but the body in movement, in connection with digital devices. So we explore in the workshop a bit in Arduino and how this works. So we put like hands-on in hardware and creating the devices, and then also exploring in improvisation, movement-based tasks, individually and collectively.
Yes, basically is share our desire behind how we start the project and try to mix code, translation in analog, digital data, go to the dance, to just to make a research, base it in body, go to the code again, and this feedback. That is basically what we are doing together.
You're not showing only the end, but you're really showing the process of developing the work that you do. Yeah.
We are showing the guts.
Yep, definitely. That's
yes.
true. Yeah.
Sorry. Also, we want to share that like there is so many ways of doing it. So this is just like kind of like to light on the motivation and to show a bit which kind of sensors exist. Like, so it's very good for beginners, I think, in Arduino.
Again, I have to move. Hi, David. You don't have a microphone, I can see that. Well, you get one. You get one offered. We have more than one at least. Thank you for being with us. Also, thank you, Anton and Jorge, for being with us today. The audience can't see you, but you're here with us. And the participants will see you tomorrow, definitely. I would like to start, I mean, Motion Back is just a huge universe. It still is. And I mean, we know each other for some time, and I'm still like, wow, there's so much happening there, actually. Still, could you explain in a short sentence what you are doing actually in Motion Bank in general?
Should be on, but yeah, it's on. Yeah, I think you already mentioned that the project was initially founded by William Forsyth, and I think that's maybe he was experimenting with technology in the 90s already, but maybe in comparison to today, these projects were also related to his own work and his specific way he was working. Improvisation technologies, this DVD, which was sort of the idea to introduce to his way, to his movement language. Then it was followed by synchronous objects, which was a big website project, but also focusing on one of his work. And then with Motion Bank, I think the idea was also to establish a more broader platform, or to investigate more broadly also for other artists what does it mean, and not so much focused on one specific person, photographer. And this sort of opened up the universe you mentioned, and after Forsyth left Frankfurt and the Motion Bank project was not longer funded as a project of the Forsyth company, it moved to Mainz University of Applied Sciences, and this was also quite a shift because it really became a research project, so funded by research funds. And I think what remained as a core idea is to research in a also very way how to enable people working in the dance field, how to support people to make use of technology in their work. A lot focuses also on documentation, self-documentation, archiving, using technology for that. But yeah, we also started looking at, and that's coming to the workshop here, we are also just following what's happening in the technological field, and we had one pretty great occasion to look a bit closer into motion capture in a collaboration with the Staatstheater Mainz, with the Tanz Mainz ensemble in 2018-2019, and this sort of started our us researching more what we can actually do with motion capture. And we're looking at those questions not specifically related to one project, to one artistic project or something like that, but more looking at the different kind of possibilities about the implications of using such a technology, about what you can do with the data, how to represent it, what different kind of ways are there, and those are basically also the questions that we would like to discuss in the workshop. And we have one specific setting with us where we with a motion capture system which will allow us to live stream. It's a markerless motion capture system, so no one has to wear suits or sensors. And we can also discuss the differences between attaching something to the body and not attaching something to the body and things like that. And it will allow us to stream this into a VR class, and we're looking at this specific setting. And there will also be the possibility to record something. So we have the system here, and it's set up, and it's quite easy to do shorter recordings, which is also everyone's invited to basically pass by and record a snippet, which you could also then take with you for further experiments, or and we hope we didn't fully test it, but we checked out the specifications, and it should be possible to make use of the data in the workshop by Oliver and Lilith in the workshop on Tuesday. So if we manage to record a few samples, then we could make use of that.
also we see how this is working. I already told you before, we will see how all these workshops are also related. Some of the points David already two motion capture versions here, at least, even more if you go deeper into it. And it will be interesting to see, because we already talked about it, how Choy Ka Fai approached this idea of motion capturing and what is possible and what is not possible in that case. We will see it also with the other systems, how they are used and working in specific cases. And this was also the handover to Oliver, actually. Yes, you will work with motion data, but can you tell us more about the AR Loop Machine workshop? What are you going with Lilith here in the audience? On
I think I have to get I have to get one step back. Just that you know a little bit what's this AR Loop Machine. I'm running the managing director of Nika and the Navigators. It's normally a music theater company. And 2019 there was an anniversary of the Bauhaus, and the Kulturstiftungsbundes said you have to do something for this anniversary, and it should be really exciting, and you should work with technology. Don't care about the money, that is our part. And it's very seldom that a big cultural institution says, go for it. Yeah, not that you apply it, but they say experience. And we had the feeling that augmented reality with glasses, so that we have real data in space where you can interact. It's a really interesting thing, and the people in the Bauhaus would have loved it. And so major challenge 2019, realize a project. Is it my handy? Oh my God. Perhaps you can make it off. And I think there not a lot of project realized at this time. Until now, it's not a lot of things were really done in this area. Is it out now? Finally. And then we had the corona, all this, and we had possibility to apply for money, dive in to make. And we thought if you make another less projects like this, we don't make it as a project where the software is part of the art piece, and the software is one thing, make a content management system out of it. So to use glasses, and the content is open. So we have a website, you can put in the content, and then there's a queue list, and then you can load it up, the whole things to the glasses. And we have 16 augmented reality glasses at the moment. For me as an artist, it's a completely new thing, because it's something we developed for an art piece. But now we have a system which is open. And so this is also, we're going to show this system, and in the end, it's a question how we go on with the whole thing. And I hope it's going to be realized that we have this motion data which can put into the glasses, and perhaps when you record something on movement, be aware, perhaps you can dance with yourself, with your virtual avatar. Think about what could be interesting movements. You cannot touch yourself, but the interesting things, if you have avatars really in space, there are some things they cannot do, but there are things you cannot do, but they can do very easily. This is one thing, is the size. For them, it's really easy for an avatar to be really small. And what's happening if you dance with someone, or with yourself, when you're small like this, or if you're 3 meters high? These are things which are really easy. Or as an avatar, you can also say, okay, I'm not going to dance, and virtually I dance like this. Yeah. And perhaps think about things like this when you record. And perhaps one other thing, when we hear, it's a little bit a thing, for me it's always important, in this digital area there are so many words which are not clearly defined, because they're coming from the industry. So things like augmented reality, there are so many projects out there, they're called augmented reality, and in the end they are on a mobile phone and on an iPad. And for me it's really important, when we are thinking that, we need words, they are the base of our thinking. And if we call something on a mobile phone augmented reality, there is not really, then we call film reality. And it's a simulation of augmented reality. And I think this is very important if we're a group here, that we really stick to the words and be precise what we are talking about, and not to be too much influenced from the words with the industry brought to us, like words like metaverse. Nobody knows really what it is. I was on the Metaverse conference. Since now I'm really sure I don't know what it is, and I know all the others also don't know it. Yeah? And the things are not so complicated. They're really easy, and I think we have to go really with an open mind and look how closely. I talk too long. Well. One last thing which is really interesting. When you, I don't know, who has ever had an augmented reality glasses tested of you? You're the only one? No one else had one? Yeah, you. Not virtual, so augmented. And really interesting, perhaps it's a very simple technique. It feels very natural. And in the end, it's something really weird happens, because in the end, there's also a big distance. So you wear it, it feels natural, but then you don't try it again. So it is these glasses we're using, they're also called, they're from the company Magic Leap glasses. And because it's really getting in concurrence to your fantasy. That's just what your fantasy normally does, that something in the space really appears. And it feels natural, and I think the complicated thing is not technology, but how people react to it.
Short introduction.
Sorry.
Into your workshop. No. We do have the time actually. I thank you for that. I'm not quite sure about what you said about the simplicity of terms and use of language in that case, because as it's just developing at the moment and we are still in the midst of this digital turn, I think that's actually what's fluid at the whole time. So we are now bringing together the linguistic space of dance with the linguistic space of technology, and this somehow is merged and somehow it's not fitting to each other. So I guess there's quite some discussion possible, especially at these, are the terms already all clear and are they all very, I know you're referring to the technological terms, but also these are in development at the moment, because all of this is also in constant developing. And we had some discussion before that if you're ready with your presentation on VR classes, you're already on the next level of the next generation of classes, and they have completely different names sometimes for similar technologies. So I guess there is some development, and I guess it's good that it is there, because as we've seen in the presentations today of you, of Choy Ka Fai, but also of all of you, there's a lot happening at the moment in this field, and this is good because it means there are a lot of different specifics, different expertises working together. It's a lot about collaboration. So how is dance actually working? How is stage design actually working? How is choreography actually working? And how all these spheres of expertise are coming together and building something completely new in a new world. It's a lot about collaboration. We have a lot of ensembles here, a lot of groups coming together and doing work together, and it's necessary. We also heard it with Choy Ka Fai. There's always a huge amount of people behind any of these productions, being part of it. And how is this actually possible? How to unhierarchize also this work and being on the same level and talking about the same things? Or are you always sure that you are talking about the same things? Or do you have to find a common language in that? It's a question that maybe we will also tackle during the next days, because here are a lot of people who worked already with technology in dance. Some of you are dancers, some of you are coming more of a performance-based background or coming from technologies, and it will be interesting how we are communicating and how we find communication in these days through movement, through language, definitely, also through the technology itself. And I hope this comes together, and I hope we find connections as this between Motion Bank and your project AR Loop Machine, also with the other projects, seeing how this all can be connected. you all will have the time during the workshops, being in the workshops, posing questions, use the time, use the opportunity. Of course you will do that, but yeah, you are allowed to. There are no stupid questions, as you know, but sometimes it's good to tell you again, because this is so new what's happening at the moment. You always think like, maybe I shouldn't ask this because I should know how augmented reality is working, or how these classes are working, or what technology is behind that. But you don't have to know this. You have to pose the questions here, and you have the opportunity, because all of you, I'm talking for you now, are inviting to pose these questions and to come into communication on that. Thank you. I'm looking for some questions from the audience. Otherwise, I will give some introductions here for you after we ended the stream today. If there aren't any questions so far, I would like to thank the audience at the streaming at YouTube. Just waving a last time goodbye to you. Some of you we will see during the next days. Some of you have only been with us during the streaming. And I hope you have a wonderful Sunday and the next good week. And we will have one, I hope, because we will start with the workshop tomorrow in the morning. And have a good time. Thank you.